Hey guys, happy Tuesday. We're back with another episode of Adventure School. Today's going to be a little bit different, but just to recap, Adventure School is a little series that we do just to bring on guests that have some knowledge about traveling to help you adventure easier. So, I originally planned for somebody else to be on today, but last minute we had to move them to a different date. So I asked my boyfriend Carlos, the other half of Happy Nomad Couple, to join us and talk about budget travel. So thanks for joining us. So I'm going to invite him and we're going to kind of talk about our round the world trip, because that's what kind of inspired me to start this brand when I packed too much after I traveled around the world for 9 months. That was fun. How we were able to save money, like just kind of some of the tips and tricks we learned along the way. And he's kind of the budget guru of the two of us, so I've invited him on. Hey, Carlos.
No, see.
Okay, you can hear me, right?
Yes, can you hear me? Because you didn't laugh at my jokes, so I
I
felt like
did
you
laugh.
couldn't hear me.
I'm just so used to your jokes. I think that's the problem. I'm just kidding. Okay, so for anyone who doesn't know, just again, this is Carlos. This is my boyfriend. We are the Happy Nomad Couple together, and we quit our jobs back in 2017 and traveled around the world for about 9.5 months. Went to 22 countries on 5 different continents. Before we left, we created a huge budget because we knew we didn't want to come home and just kind of have to completely start over and be worried about money and everything. So we decided, like, this is our set amount that we can afford to spend while we're gone, and when we come back we'll still be fine. And when we were gone, we still managed to stay under budget, and we still did almost everything that we wanted to do, which was awesome. So I brought him on to just kind of ask him some questions about our travels, and of course I can interject in that too because I was there. But he's the budget guy. I was kind of like the long-term planner, like where we have to go, where we have to end up, and he was kind of like, okay, how do we make this work along the way? So we're a good team. So
you were macro and I was micro. I was like the day-to-day.
That is very true. That is very true. I was like, okay, next week we have to be in Kenya for blah, blah, blah. And he's like, okay, we have to take a bus this way. It's going to cost us $17. Like, it was all those little pieces. So, yeah. Hey, Angie, thanks for joining. So anyway, of course, I know this answer, but I just kind of want to share with everyone, this whole series is to help everyone adventure easier. But I just want to get a little background, like explain to everyone why we decided to go on this trip. Or what, in your words, what would you say? Oh, you're breaking up a little. We're on the same Wi-Fi. Why would you do that?
Can you hear me?
Okay.
I said
Yeah.
The simple answer is you.
Very true. Very true. I am the factor behind all of this, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, you gave us the kick in the butt that we needed. I mean, we were in a bad place in our careers, just not really getting anywhere and not really enjoying what we were doing anymore. And we were still young. We're still young, but we were younger then. And it was just like, it was basically like, do it now or do it never. And, travel has always been a part of my life. And ever since you joined my life, it's become a part of your life. So it just seemed like a once in a lifetime opportunity, and everything, all the cards were in place. We had a renter ready to take over the house. We had someone ready to take over the car payment. We were able to spend all of our money on the trip. Not like we're not making money, we're spending money on this trip, and we're spending money on expenses at home. It was like, all right, we're completely free of our liabilities at home, and now we just have to spend our money on our day-to-day living the same way we would if we were still here in Vegas.
Yeah. Can you tell we both went to school for finance, partially? But yes.
No free
that's
advertising.
A great point. I think some people, like a lot of times when people want to long-term travel, they're asking like, oh, how do I work on the road? Like, what are some ways to make money? And I think that's awesome. Of course, that's probably a more sustainable way to travel for a long time. But it's important to note that we really didn't do that. We had I just think one job while we were gone, and it was something that kind of just fell into our laps, and so we were like, sure, we'll do it, and it was like fun, so it wasn't a huge deal, and we made like, I think together we made like $1,800 in like 3 days, and we stayed in like a 5-star hotel, free food, like we're like, yeah, that'll work, and it's in Thailand, like a country we already love, sure. So
and then the very night that we checked out of that 5-star hotel, we went back to living our way in a room that was it was probably about arm's length, right? Would you say?
Yeah.
I'd say if you put your arms out side to side, that was about the width of the room, and then it was like longer.
Yeah, and I posted a picture of that a few weeks ago just to be like, oh, this is the reality part of Instagram. Like, I was staying in this 5-star hotel yesterday, and today I'm staying in this one that's as wide as the bed. So I don't know, maybe the bed was not even as wide as your arm span.
I think the bed like just barely snuck in to the room.
It did. I'm a little surprised they even got it in the door and were able to turn it sideways to put it on the ground. Or maybe they built around it, who knows. But yeah, so we intended to do the whole thing on a budget because we didn't want to work, and we just wanted to spend all of our time, exploring and not being like, okay, we have to also make money. We have to spend extra time in this place just to stay in our hostel or our Airbnb or whatever, so that we can continue the trip. We kind of planned it around not having to do that. So of course we could have done it differently and maybe gone to less places and worked along the way and whatever, but that wasn't our plan. Oh, you went black. Okay. Trying to figure out
black thing is turned off all of a sudden. We're good.
Oh, we're good. Okay. So I wrote, this is like little last minute, so I wrote down a few questions on the side so I remember. Because I feel like we have so much good info, if people want to do this, long-term travel or quit your job, whatever. Okay, so I might know a little bit more about this, but I want to see what you say. How did we plan our route and itinerary as we went? Give a little info.
You sound like a robot right now. How did we plan the trip?
How do we plan our route and our whole itinerary?
Yes. Right. So the route, that was you with the macro picture, but we both agreed that it made sense to start close to home. So we started in South America, and then we always wanted to keep moving towards the next destination, avoiding going backwards as much as possible, because the bulk of the expense, even we knew going into it, and the numbers proved the bulk of the expense is traveling. It's the flights, it's the moving around. The day to day, we can figure that out. We can get a meal for $3. We can get a hotel for $10, But when you're moving from country to country, that's always, especially if you have to go over water, that's going to be $600, $900, $1,200 every time. So that's, we wanted to minimize that as much as possible. So we took land through most of South America, starting in Colombia, worked our way to Brazil. And the idea was always to work our way to Brazil, because that's the bigger hub for international flights. Get over to the southern tip of Africa, start in South Africa, work our way up to Egypt, and then
Hold on. Okay. You're loading a bit. Hold on. Oh, come on, Wi-Fi. Yeah, Angie, okay, so hold on. I don't know if Carlos can see me, but he's loading for a second. So Angie's commenting that, it's interesting that we didn't work as we went. And yeah, I guess maybe not a lot of people realize that that's what we did. And maybe looking back, I think maybe that's something that we could have looked into a little more, especially if it was, if we had a little downtime anywhere just to do quick things. You're still loading. So, what was I going to say? So, so yeah, and the other thing that I was going to say that I wish I would have looked into more is that, I think Carl's going to get back in, is that,
okay.
I'm
still loading. So now let's just go here at least. I don't know. Now you're on your own.
Oh, that's true. This is weird. This is like Inception right now. Okay. Well, we'll just finish off like this. So if you guys want to check out our account, I haven't posted a ton there, but we definitely have some things that we have coming up that we're probably going to get more active on. So it's at Happy Nomad Couple. And if you want to check out the website, it's happynomadcouple.com. And I have a budget spreadsheet on there. We have all of our expenses laid out for every country. We have some good resources on there, so definitely check it out if there's something you're interested in. All right, well, let's get back to it. So, yeah, you were talking, without going too deep, we went
all through South America, and then the idea was always to work from west to east. We knew we wanted to start in Colombia. We knew we wanted to end with New Year's at the Harbor Bridge in Sydney, and then we knew we were going to come home. So it was just literally just going east the whole way. So yeah, I mean, initially we had Europe in the plan, but the issue was twofold. First, it took us north and west away from continuing to go east, so it took us backwards, which we said we didn't want to do to avoid that. And plus, the U.S. dollar versus the euro, I mean, you're always going to be losing in that situation.
Not only that, but also it just like spread our time really thin.
True. It did make the timeline tighter for the other places.
Right. We ended up going to 22 countries, but with Europe in the picture, it was something close to 40, which was crazy. Yeah. And that would have made like every place, like every country, not even city, every country would have had like 5 days max or something crazy like that. Right. So we were like, that'll be a different thing. Like, this is going to sound really stupid. I don't even know if I should say this, but in our minds, we're like, Europe's something we can do when we're old if we need to. Like,
I mean, it's the truth.
Let's do the Machu Picchu and all this crazy stuff, while we're young.
Who's going to want to hike up 300 stairs or whatever, whatever it was, an hour worth of stairs, and do all that stuff. Or take the bus up there, which would have kind of cheapened the experience. Yeah, for us personally, we wanted to do it. Yeah. And then places like India, and also how we've talked about it, like some of these places that are maybe less developed, when we talk to like my godparents who are huge travelers as well, like they went when things were really undeveloped, no Google Maps, no nothing. Everything was like,
you walk in, you say, any rooms available?
Right. So, I mean, just imagine in 20, 30, 40 years what Thailand's going to look like. I mean, Thailand's already taken huge leaps forward. Vietnam, Laos is still a little behind, but in 30, 40 years, they won't be.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
Whereas Europe is like, I don't know. It's not. It has a bunch of history, which makes it different, but it's not. It's not a shock. It's still Western civilization.
And we have been to Europe, so it wasn't like we hadn't at this point. We hadn't been to Africa at all, so we want to definitely hit that up and everything. So Angie said that she always actively looks into trains as well as if available, which is so funny because that's my favorite mode of transportation too. But what was something that we did all the time when we were traveling?
I mean, we always took buses.
Buses
were easy, especially in South America, because the roads are so curvy and the flights. Was it just that there weren't that many, or that they were just really expensive?
This was like almost 5 years ago, but still, yes. At the time, I don't know right now, but at the time there was not a lot of good flight options that were like budget. Like there wasn't a lot of airlines between where we wanted to go that it was like, oh, this is like the Spirit or the Frontier of South America, where it's really cheap to get between these two major cities. So buses were easy.
Yeah, also like between, catching a 9 a.m. flight from one city to another and then checking into the hotel that night or that afternoon and paying for that hotel. I mean, for a bus ticket that's like $12, $17, and a nice first class luxury with air conditioning and drinks and all that. And it takes longer, but you leave at night, you sleep on the bus, and when you wake up the next morning, you're at your destination. So I mean, it was 2 in 1, right? It was travel, or it was transportation, and it was lodging.
Yeah. So this is really one of our best tips, especially if you're going to be traveling long term, and it doesn't really matter how long it takes to get places. We saved a lot of money on accommodations just by doing overnight buses. So not only was it our mode of transportation that got us to places that was a little cheaper, but it also was a way for us to sleep somewhere without having to pay extra, like to sleep in a hotel. And especially in South America and even in some of the buses in Asia, the buses were super comfortable. Yeah. And even if you bought like I don't know if it's called first class, but if you bought the higher end ticket and you got the bigger, cushier seats, so I'm not joking you, sometimes they served champagne and beer. Oh, yeah. green wheels.
Not just one. It was like through the whole ride.
Champagne. I don't get champagne for free on a flight. I mean, I guess I don't book first class either.
Yeah.
But anyway, like cheap, and you save money on accommodation, and you get on the bus, you watch a movie, you drink your champagne and your
out
meal.
The window, hopefully.
You wake up in the
cool
morning,
stuff.
and you're in your new place. And it was so much cheaper, and we really enjoyed that. And we really did do that all through South America and in Asia. And in Asia was a little different because we didn't really take any of these first class buses,
there wasn't
but they had a lot of lay down bed buses. But of course, they're like kind of small and tight. We're like a little bit bigger Americans, I guess, than like the average Asian person. I don't know. So
I feel bad for
tall
tall people. Let's put it that way. Those beds, I mean, I'm 5'10" on a good day, and your feet are like up against it, your back is, but it was still.
Oh, and this is a good time to bring about, so of course, like I said, I started Splice Clothing because I packed way too much on this big trip. Huge backpack. If you go to our Instagram page, you'll see I had a huge backpack plus a backpack in front. Plus I was usually carrying like a bag of food or whatever. Like we had a
bag full of electronics. It was just like 50 pounds, and it was a crappy bag with like one single strap.
It was rough. So when we were on the bus, we only put our big bags in the storage, so we had to have everything else with us in our little bed. So and it's not even a bed, it's like metal. It was a blanket that who knows how many people use, but we're still alive.
It kind of traps your legs in.
So like the more stuff we had, the like more hectic that experience was too. So there's so many things that I look back on, and I'm like, it's good that I realized to travel light and wanted to start this, because that was many rough experiences.
Yeah.
Okay, to get to a few more questions that I wanted to ask. Okay, so I talked about how much we packed, which was way too much. What was the cheapest place we went to?
The cheapest place we went to, I mean, we started off really cheap in Colombia. Mm-hmm. Egypt, we spent a ton. It was low?
Yeah.
We did a lot of adventure stuff there, so I thought maybe that would have rounded us up. But yeah, I mean, Lao was the spot. I mean, it was hell getting there. We got, how we love buses, and we love cheap buses. We got on a bus from Vietnam that was supposed to go straight to
Luang Prabang.
Luang Prabang.
It took us to Vientiane.
Yeah, the capital. And Vientiane was, it was not a stop that we needed to make. It was actually way out of the way. So we ended up
we were
going.
still 8 hours away.
So we spent like 18 hours or something getting to Vientiane, and then we still needed to go like another 12 hours to get.
It was like 38 hours total. Something crazy. I think it was 24 hours to Vientiane, which should have been 24 hours to Luang Prabang. But I think they just scammed us on the bus, which is something that happens, which is important to bring about when talking about budget travel also.
Yeah.
Is you gotta even budget for things like that. So I'm gonna quickly just go over.
Because they're like, no, it's fine. This bus goes to Luang Prabang. This one goes, this one goes. And then we get to Vientiane, and they're like, oh, now you have to transfer to another bus. We're like, what? No. You gotta pay us because we paid to go. So they paid most.
Okay, so these were our, hey, thanks for joining. These were our kind of, because I want to kind of explain a little bit about how we like kept track of our budget. So before we left, I made our whole budget, and this is a really good resource if anybody is looking to do something similar, or even if you're just going on like a short trip and you kind of want to know what to expect. Budgetyourtrip.com is an awesome resource. It lets you choose like, what type of travel are you? Are you a budget travel? Are you like a mid-range travel? Are you a luxury traveler? And it kind of gives you an idea of what to expect for like different categories. So I kind of went off of budgetyourtrip.com to make our own budget, and I used a lot of the figures I found there. Some of them I found were a little, I'm like, whoa, that's like way too much. I feel like it'll be less, or maybe I'm like, this isn't enough. I'm going to build more into it. And it is by person, so per person, so I doubled it. But from there, I made categories: accommodations, food and drink, local transportation, which means the transportation while we were in a city, like, just like local buses and stuff. Activities and entertainment, alcohol. I separated that because I know some people don't drink alcohol. So it's kind of like if you just want to know the food and water costs or whatever, that's its own category. Living expenses and toiletries, Oh, I need to look up this Savely.io would be a great partner resource. Okay, I'll look into that. Thank you. Living expenses and toiletries, those are things like when we had to buy shampoo or soap, or in a lot of countries, maybe not everyone realizes this, but a lot of places you have to pay to use the public restroom. So that went into that category. Souvenirs, we kept that separate. Mishaps, and then we had like our bigger travel, our big planes like from Brazil or South Africa. And mishaps were things like that we didn't account for, but I budgeted for. So mishaps would be like if we got scammed, if we lost a couple bucks, if we went the wrong way in a tuk-tuk and we had to get back on and go the other way.
If you leave your computer open, you're an open window and it happens to rain that night and completely short your motherboard.
And then have to get it fixed in Colombia, and they like just paper with like a toothbrush and it magically works again. And we're only 2 weeks into the trip. That would be a mishap. So, like I said, like all
that
of this,
example that sounded a little too specific.
So yeah, I'm still working. I know it's been 2 years, but we have all this info. Literally every single cent we spent while we were gone. If we spent 1 penny on, a sheet of toilet paper, that is in this budget. So I have a lot of
every
info.
night I'd reconcile the cash. I'd be like, all right, I left the house with $100 in cash.
Mm-hmm.
I have $24 in cash. Okay, yeah, there's the $76 worth of transactions that made.
And during the day, he would keep a note on his phone, like, okay, we bought, juice for $2. We got a train ticket for $4, whatever. Like, he would just keep a running list. So every night he would make the list, and that's how we were able to keep track of everything we were spending. And from that list, I would take it over. I'm the macro person, the micro person, and I would take it over and put it into our budget versus the actual sheet. Like I said, we went to school for finance, so I could compare where we're at. Okay, we're supposed to be spending, on average, $40 a day in this place, but today we spent $50. Okay, tomorrow we might need to go a little less, or today spending $50 wasn't a big deal because we did this big tour that we're not going to do every day. And that's another thing to bring up too. I'm telling you, we have too much information. We're gonna have to cut it soon.
There were a lot of those situations where we were like, we're only gonna be here once. It's we're gonna do this. Who cares what the price is, whatever it is. Like, we're gonna do this.
And the reason why I did it on an average was that was the only way to really compare it, and especially compare countries to each other. Because let's say in Peru we spent 26 days there, but we only spent 1 day in Hong Kong. So you can't really say like, well, in Hong Kong I only spent $100, but in Peru I spent $2,000. Like, it's not comparable because there was a 25-day difference between the two. So I averaged every category what we should spend per day there, so it was easier to compare daily to what we actually were spending. And then there's an average daily spend goal, essentially, for what we were going for the country. And there were some countries we went over that, and there were some countries we went under, and there were some countries we didn't go to at all, so we could reallocate those funds. Because I think you need to keep it kind of flexible. Like you said, we wanted to move in one solid direction, so we weren't going back and forth at any time. It was just kind of like, we don't have a lot of time, we just got to keep going this way. And so, where was I going with this? So, I mean, I don't know. We had to, it was on a budget. It was moving in one direction. And this is what happens when you have a live video. Okay. As you guys are talking, I'm legit thinking of the various reasons right now for allocating your travel books equipment. Okay, share that with us because we obviously want to know. We're like old school. We're just like, yeah, give me a Google Sheets, give me a notes app on our thing. One thing that I did want to bring up that we didn't do, and it's kind of like it's not a regret, but it's something I probably would have looked into more before we left last time, is credit card points, like for flights and stuff. That's not something we're very much like, if it's cheap and we can take it, like that's what's going to get us there. So we're not like loyal to any credit cards or anything, but maybe that's something that could have helped us get like our first flight or whatever. We didn't really look into that. We do utilize credit cards that give us, and we usually just do cash back. And what else? We use credit cards. Okay, before we cap it, I just want to get this in there too. So this might only be for Americans. I can't say that I know this for sure, but we have two things that really helped us financially while we were on our trip. One of them was our Chase Sapphire card, and that's because there are foreign transaction fees. So wherever we could use a credit card, we would use that one, and you get a lot of points back on travel, for that card, and it was just an all-around really good card to have.
Food and travel 2 times.
There you go. He knows more than that kind. And then also we have a Charles Schwab checking account.
That was huge. That one I love.
Yeah. You have to
I hate
combine
fees.
it with, I think you have to open a brokerage account while you open a checking
But it doesn't
account.
have to have any.
You don't even have to use the brokerage account. So that's not what we did. We just opened a checking account and we transferred money into that account from our normal checking accounts while we went, because there's no ATM fee. Well, they do actually charge you an ATM fee because ATMs all around the world are from different
The
banks, right?
ATM,
So-
that ATM machine will charge you a fee, but Charles Schwab doesn't charge you. And at the end of the month, they reimburse you
They will
fully
reimburse
on
you.
all.
So
So there'd be months where we were getting like $90 back, $80 back.
and here's the most important part about that. So when you're traveling, you probably don't want to carry a ton of cash on you. And when you get all your ATM fees back, you can just take out little by little. So let's say we have one more day in a country. We could just take out $20 because there is no, even though the ATM fee would be $5, we're going to get that money back.
Right.
So we will just take out small denominations as we go, or let's say now we got to pay for a big tour or trip or something. Then we will go and get money out of there. And having a set of debit card also minimize your losses if your card's lost or stolen. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, exactly. That's why we would always like only put like $500 at a time into that account, because we were mindful of the fact that if something happens and we have to go and pull all of our cash out of the ATM with a knife in our back or something, like,
There's not
you
really
know,
that much.
that
Yeah.
luckily, you know, we don't have a lot of it in there. So we always were mindful of like only putting $500 in there, and then as that got to like $100 left, and re-up again. Go that route.
Yeah, but whenever we could, we'd usually pay with our Sapphire card.
Yeah.
But if it was places that only took cash, which weren't countries that were more, about cash, or they didn't have debit, or didn't have machines to pay for everything, especially little stalls for food and things. That's when we want to keep money on us. But we never ever kept more than the necessary amount, especially if there's ATMs everywhere now. We only ran into
There's an
issue
ATM in
with
Thailand that has my debit card.
it. That's true. Or you left it.
I left it. I think I left it and they probably
We had to
sucked it back
cancel
in.
That was a whole thing. Things happen. Things happen. But, not a lot of bad things happen. I think it's funny that when we were told everyone we were leaving, they were like, "You're doing what?" And you're going to Colombia and Egypt and all these places that were sketchy to
Colombia
people.
scared people.
And those are some of our favorite places, and some of the cheapest places that we really got to do everything we wanted. One more thing, and then we're gonna cut it off. So our total budget before we left was 20,000 USD per person. And we came in under budget. I think our total was like, I don't remember off the top of my head. It was like 19,500, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's written somewhere. But So yeah, we did come under budget, and that's because we were keeping track of it every single day. And I definitely think even if you had a lower budget or a higher budget or a longer amount of time or a shorter amount of time, you could definitely do it too. It just takes some planning.
Damon gets it.
I love Colombia. It's one of my favorite places. So anyway, without this going too long, I want to thank everybody for joining us. I'm sorry your thing didn't work.
It's okay.
But now that travel is starting to pick up a little bit more again, we're going to start getting out there more. We have some fun stuff planned. So I hope to share more stuff to our Happy Nomad Couple account and get some more helpful tips and tricks on happynomadcouple.com. If you want to download, we have this spreadsheet. Let me go back to it so I can give you the right info. And all of our entire budget is at happynomadcouple.com/RTW-trip/budget, and that's where you'll find like the entire thing. And then if you go to our homepage and you scroll down a bit, it says download the HNC budget template spreadsheet. And that's where you can download a spreadsheet that looks just like ours, and it has little fillable things so you can plan for trips that you're going to with the same kind of method that we did. And yeah, but if there's any questions you guys ever have, you can always just DM me directly here at Splice Clothing, or you can ask us over at Happy Nomad Couple. Again, this is Carlos. So.
Or if you want to share your stories, I like hearing other people's stories.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Or if you're planning something, I know Angie's kind of planning a longer trip right now, so she's going to Europe. So just ignore the comments about old people earlier. I mean, we want to go everywhere.
Yeah,
so
I mean, we want to do Europe in advance.
Yeah, that's actually on our 5-year plan.
Yeah.
Maybe our 3-year We'll see what happens.
Because again, it's transportation and lodging.
We are a sucker for that. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, we love budget travel. We don't do it because it's our only method. We just kind of like doing it like a little dirty,
I love
like
it.
in the yeah,
Even
like
even
that's
in
our
the
style.
states, even in the states, like if let's say you get into a city and it's like 1 o'clock and check-in isn't until 3, why am I gonna hop in a Uber or a taxi? We'll take a little walk. We'll take a little public transportation, get a feel for the city,
We
get a
just like to
feel,
see the real
to see stuff out the window. And there's no rush to get to the hotel. So we can sit in the lobby for an hour?
Yeah. So anyway, thanks for joining me.
Yep.
Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, let us know. And I hope that you guys get to plan some fun adventures soon. I hope that this helped you adventure a little easier. So we'll see you guys next time. Thank you guys for joining. Mwah.